Everything you need to know about honey. Honey was added in the 1.15 update, and you collect it from harvesting bees. Bees are passive Minecraft mobs that will become hostile when you attack them or harvest the honey or honeycomb from their hives in a certain way. Bees can spawn naturally in hives, up to 3 bees per hive. They come out looking for pollen from flowers, and when they collect it, they get a little pollen texture on their little bee bums. Once they have the pollen, they return to their hives where they make honey. Bees are attracted by flowers and can be bred by using any kind of flower to produce a little bee baby. Oh. As the bees collect honey, the honey level in the hive increases from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Once it is at 5, the texture of the beehive block changes to this, and you can see there is honey in little holes, and it's actually dripping honey and making a little squelching sound. Oh, hello. There are multiple ways to harvest from beehives. One of them is to get honeycomb, and one of them is to get honey itself. If you harvest or destroy a beehive, all of the bees in the area will become angry at you until you leave the area or they or you die. I'll show you this in a minute. However, a good way to get around this is to place a campfire underneath the beehive, or to use a dispenser facing the beehive, to harvest what you need. The use of glass bottles from a dispenser or through a campfire underneath the beehive will produce a honey bottle, which will empty the hive and will allow the bees to continue collecting pollen and create some more honey in the hive. Another thing you can collect from beehives is honeycomb, which you collect by using shears, again either with a campfire underneath the beehive or through using a dispenser. So now I'm going to quickly show you what happens when you shear or use a glass bottle on a beehive manually without a campfire or a dispenser. So if I set my game mode to survival, and then the bees get angry, their eyes turn to red, and they poison you. The only way to stop them is if all of them die, if you die, or if you leave a certain radius area. Honey can also be used as a food source. It can be drank straight from the bottle to restore up to 6 hunger points or 3 full hunger bars. Of the 2 things you can get from bees, honey and honeycomb, they can be used in a crafting table like this to create either a honey block, where you will get the glass bottles back, or a honeycomb block. You should be careful, however, as honeycomb blocks and honey blocks cannot be transformed back into what they were made from. Honey blocks, as with slime blocks, are sticky blocks. However, they don't stick to each other. As you can see, when we move these pistons, the honey and the slime do not stick to each other. However, they both stick to other blocks that are not immovable objects. So they can move the quartz that's on top of them without sticking to each other, and also without sticking to the floor, which is the immovable objects that are the glazed terracotta. What this does mean is that honey blocks, much like slime blocks, can be used to create all sorts of contraptions like piston doors and flying machines. So giving a go at creating a simple flying machine here, and off it goes. That was actually the first flying machine I've ever made, and I forgot to put obsidian on top of it. So I guess it's gone. Bye. Much like slime blocks, the player and other entities can interact with them. So as with slime blocks, when you fall from a great height, you bounce unless you shift click or crouch, and then you don't bounce, but you actually take damage if you're in survival. The honey block works in the opposite way by sticking to the player and stopping you from bouncing whatsoever. If I were in survival, the honey block actually reduces the amount of damage you take by up to 80%. This also works the same with other entities, as I said, so villagers will bounce on slime blocks and will get stuck to honey blocks. They'll take damage, but a reduced amount of damage. So from this, as we've discussed, slime blocks will bounce entities. So something like this will create a little slime block launcher or a little slime block trampoline. Whereas this, well no, you actually stick to it. It's actually really difficult to jump on the honey blocks, and walking on them is similar to walking on soul sand. As we've discussed, honey blocks entities stick to them, so flipping this lever means that the villagers actually get dragged along with the honey blocks. Stop it! An interesting thing about honey blocks is that they are not opaque blocks, they are transparent blocks. So unlike a lot of other blocks, they don't pass a redstone signal and light can pass through them. The interesting comparison here is with slime blocks, as slime blocks are not a transparent block, as you can see here, but a honey block is a transparent block and will not pass a redstone signal through it. This is quite interesting for redstone contraptions because you have a sticky block that sticks other blocks to it, such as a slime block, but is also transparent. Another interesting thing about honey blocks is that they are ever so slightly not a full block. They are actually exactly the same size as a Minecraft chest. Now what this means is that they are extremely useful and helpful in item sorters and item flowers. What you can see here is we have hoppers underneath both of these items that flow to chests. Now when we go to the chest here, the hopper underneath it should be able to pick up whatever item I throw into it. However, it doesn't, because even though the chest isn't a full block, so the hopper, it should be able to see this item, the hopper is too busy checking the inventory of the chest, which it pulled the blue eye shards off that I just put in, and pulled down to here. So the chest cannot be used for this purpose, where you might turn a corner in a storage system and you might want to put all of the items up against the hoppers without the water flowing everywhere. The honey block, however, works for this, as it is exactly the same size as the chest. However, it doesn't have an internal storage of its own, so the hopper isn't checking for the internal storage of the block, so it picks up the blocks that come into contact with it. The final thing about honey blocks is that they slow the player's descent if they are pressed up against them. As you can see here, you can get an advancement for it. So this is great for parkour maps, where you might start off somewhere like here, and you wouldn't normally be able to jump all the way over there, but if you jump and press yourself into it, you can reach the other side before you actually hit the ground. Well, that's everything for this episode of Everything You Need to Know About. I hope you learn a lot about honey and honey blocks and where it comes from. If you have any questions, or if you have any feedback, or you think I missed something, please feel free to drop it down in the comments. But otherwise, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!